Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Resley, and welcome back to another video. Now, in today's video, I wanted to speak my mind, give a little bit of a review, and also, talk about how my experience has been playing this game that is Marathon, made by Bungie themselves, but also where they could have really gone with this game and changes that they could and hopefully potentially will make. Now, before I say anything, right off the bat, the game has had negative PR, and it's had a bunch of people obviously, disliking it in many ways. And right before I say anything or any reviews on the game, before the game comes out, for a game to have negative PR, it's literally the worst thing, especially if that game doesn't have a community and it's not exactly established. Now, the reason as to why I say this is because everyone who has played the game has said good things about the art style and how great the art style is and everything. Obviously, some others have like mixed reviews and whatnot. Now, the reason why I mention this is because there was drama that came out a while back where people discovered that the art style was actually stolen off of someone. For you to be in a position where you're found guilty of said actions, it isn't a great look, because the gaming community in general will come together and they can be very reactive, and they will look at you and your game differently. So right off the bat, when your game or your product has negative PR, it's never really a great look. Now, that aside, one thing I will say, going into the game and just going into this whole experience of playing Marathon, it honestly feels like as a whole it was better off as a single player game. Now, what I mean by that is it has the setup for it to be a really good sci-fi / horror sort of game, and I feel like it is something that actually could have worked. From the artistic style all the way to the lore to the weapons, I feel like it honestly could have done really well if it was just a single player sci-fi horror game. But obviously it isn't, and instead it's a extraction shooter game, which obviously means that it's now competing with the likes of Arc Raiders. Now, unlike the likes of, let's say, Overwatch and Marvel Rivals, where they're both competing with each other, but they're actually doing really well, especially after the changes that Overwatch made, this sort of competition where you've now released a genre of a game that is clearly competing with Arc Raiders, it's not looking like it will do well, and there's many reasons as to why. Right off the bat, the whole user interface feels like junk, whatever you want to call it. There's so much going on. Now, as I was saying, when it comes to the user interface as a whole, it genuinely feels like there's just so much going on, both before you get into a match and during the match too. And one of those things is even, the looting system, right? The looting system in terms of, looting on controller, right? Especially on controller, it just doesn't feel nice at all. It doesn't feel great in particular. Now, obviously, when we compare both Arc Raiders and this, which most people obviously will since they're both the same genre, Arc Raiders as a whole just feels so much more tidy. It feels so much more organized. When you click a contract or an objective, it feels like you know what you're doing right off the bat. You know what item you're looking for. Now, another thing I'm genuinely not a fan of in this game is the fact that you end up feeling like you're actually punished for making the most out of your movement. And what I mean by it is, you see this middle meter right here in the middle of the screen, right? When you run, it fills up, okay? When you slide, it jumps up straight away. So you get to this point where sliding even, it means that you essentially get punished, right? Take a look at this, right? So let's say now this heats up fully, okay? Look at it. Now I just have to walk. That's all I can do. All I can do is literally just walk. But as I was saying, in terms of the running feature and, the feature itself where that bar just fills up, it genuinely feels like for a game where you want to actually make the most out of the movement and everything, not saying that, people should abuse the movement or anything. It's more so the fact that you've created a game that has the potential for it to have decent movement, even though at times it feels a little bit clunky. And then you slap on this thing where it feels like you're limited. You can't explore the movement. You can't really make the most out of the movement. Gunfights are not as adventurous in some ways because of this very thing too. It just feels like you're kind of shackled and held down and limited in so many ways, all because of this very thing. And so I feel like that as a feature just either needs to get scrapped or worked on. Now, obviously, when it comes to something like this, Arc Raiders has it, right? But with Arc Raiders, the bar doesn't fill up anywhere near as quick or anything. Like, it feels like you can genuinely like move, you can still make the most out of the movement, and it doesn't feel anywhere near as punishing. Whereas with this, you slide and half the bar literally gets filled up, to the point where it genuinely feels like 2 or 3 slides, and that's it, the bar is completely full. In terms of gameplay, in terms of gunplay, and in terms of interactions, everyone's had similar experiences. Now, for me in particular, I've had a mix of both. I've had games where on the PvE side, I've only come across like 3 NPCs and maybe 1 team, and I've had 1 or 2 games where I've actually come across other people. It's not that often, you know, it's kind of like a mixed experience. And at times, it's also felt like I'm just running around the map, kind of just exploring it, picking up whatever I need to pick up and whatever I want to. It genuinely feels like in a lot of ways, this game would have done really well from like a solo single player aspect. Don't get me wrong, you could have also slapped on the co-op aspect of it. If they really wanted this to be an online experience, what they could have done is they could have made it single player and given it a co-op side to it, or a co-op option to it. Now, of course, if you have made it to the end of the video, I just want to say a massive thank you, and thank you for just listening to me rambling. Of course, if you have enjoyed, don't forget to hit the like button, share, subscribe. Of course, all my socials will be in the description below, including my Twitch. But until the next video, no matter where you are in the world, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.